We'll start, Agnel. Okay. So, those of you can just a little bit move forward, if that's okay. Or maybe it's a little bit like a front seat in a theater. My head will be up. Okay, okay. Fine. So, Hare Krishna, thank you everyone for joining us back again for today's another topic of this Gita in a Nutshell series. Today, we're going to talk on a topic titled as The Greatest Lie Ever Told. I'll offer a quick prayer and we begin our discussion thereafter. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. When I was a student studying at Ohio State University, OSU, at Columbus, America, at one point of time, I was along with the devotees, and there used to be a big festival, a college festival, with thousands and thousands of youths from all across Ohio as a state will come there. And there we had our book table where devotees had kept Srila Prabhupada books, so the Vedic literatures like Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana and others. So I was also standing there and I was also doing book distribution. One middle-aged lady came and we began to speak. And during the conversation, she said, I love my dog more than my husband. So that took me by a surprise. So I was like little intrigued. I said, why do you say so? I was a new person into the spiritual culture. I was just started reading Bhagavad Gita and I thought I'll also go with them and see how is the experience of, sharing Vedic literatures back in America. And she said something very interesting that got me into thinking. She said, see, I love my dog more than my husband. The reason is when I wake up in the morning, I need to dress up very nicely, look very nice for my husband or a boyfriend. But my dog loves me regardless of how I look. You can say that was one of the initial learnings that I got, and I began to think, oh, really? I remember the day I was going to buy some grocery. I was accompanying a friend of mine to buy some grocery for ourselves. So he had gone inside and I was sitting in the car. And another car pulled up in the parking lot. And there was a lady, a young girl who was driving the car. And close to 15 minutes approximately before she came out of the car, there is on the dashboard, there is a mirror. She pulled down the mirror, the small mirror, and she was doing her makeup for good 15 minutes. And I was just thinking, for God's sake, you are in a shopping mall. You have come to buy grocery and you're spending so much time on doing your makeup. The point I'm trying to say, that bodily identification, that I am this body, is so strongly or deeply rooted. The consequence is suffering. When that lady said, I love my dog more than husband, So I was really taken aback. And as I said, I just started reading Bhagavad Gita. I was in my college life back in America those days. And then I came on to the subject matter where Bhagavad Gita begins with the first instruction to Arjuna. Lord Shri Krishna says, Arjuna, you're not the body but spirit soul. Now, being born up in India, grown up into a culture, we have some idea. We might have heard of some ghost stories also. I was telling one ghost stories last week. Was it this forum only? How many of you were there? Okay. And I said, I'm to give you a trailer. I'll give you a movie this week. That was a comedy, horror story I'll tell you today. Joking, joking, joking. We all have heard of it. We all have heard from our parents, we're not this body, there's a spirit soul, there's a reincarnation and all that. But because of being part of the culture today, largely an atheistic civilization, now we don't believe in it. So those of you who had attended last time, the Vedas, a myth, as a second topic of our subject matter, there also I made a point why Bharatvash became Indian. Remember in 1848, Britishers decided to name Bharatvash to be an Indian based on Indus Valley civilization. We had all discussion that time, and there we were making a point. If imagine today Vedic scriptures are widely accepted, of course there's so many people connected to Vedic culture now, thanks to Srila Prabhupada. If it is in the mainstream media, I was giving an example of TTD books. Even the books there say mythology, published by TTD, Tirupati Desham. You take that books from there. I guess the passage needs to be a little left open. The mothers can sit on the chair there, so the passage is a little open. So there's a lot of space in the back. Others can move in. If you want, there are chairs behind, so the passage can be left open. Otherwise, those who will come later on, they'll think this is all packed. So even they say it's mythological. They say in our mythological text, Balaji is described like that. As we were discussing last time. I say, how does it make sense? You decide one thing. It is mythology or this is Lord. Don't combine together. Harry Potter is mythology. Don't build a temple for Harry Potter. But this is where it's become a laughing stock. And a common Indian is totally confused as an identity crisis. Who am I? My faith, the subject matter of my faith, the premises itself is said to be mythology. And we all know very well what mythology means like that. So the greatest lie ever told, the today's topic is, who am I? Am I the body? Am I the spirit soul? Of course we are the body, but beyond the body there is a spirit soul. So far in our discussions we have been making certain scientific claims to prove that. That would be the discussion today also. Before that, let's watch or begin with this video. Volume please.
And now, one of the biggest questions of life. What happens when it's over? Heaven? Hell? Nothing? Or might there be a fourth possibility, reincarnation? Could we come back as someone else? Here's Chris Cuomo with two down-to-earth parents who thought they understood the mysteries of life. That is, until their toddler began to talk.
Named James.
Okay, this is really tough. I need somebody to help me.
All right, I'm the volunteer. What do you want me to do?
Okay, just go climb this thing and you have to hold me in case I fall.
Done. James Leiniger is all boy, 6
This
years
is a
old.
special plane. It goes in reverse. You don't see a lot of that.
James knows a lot about planes, especially war planes.
What kind of airplane is that?
The car set.
His parents, Andrea and Bruce Leiniger, say from an early age, James would play with nothing else.
He was obsessed with airplanes. You look around the house, that's all you'll see. Airplanes, helicopters, aircraft carriers.
But then, when he was 2, the planes James loved suddenly began to give him frequent and frightening nightmares.
I'd wake him up and he'd be screaming and he'd always be laying on his back, kicking his feet up at the ceiling. And I'd say, baby, what are you dreaming about? He'd say, airplane crash on fire, little man can't get out.
They sound like typical kiddie nightmares, but Andrea says they went on the same way for months. Maybe too much TV. But James was just 2, and his parents say only watching Barney and Teletubbies.
Teletubbies!
And Andrea and Bruce say they weren't watching World War II documentaries or conversing about military history. This is an F-18?
No, that one.
So what explains the nightmares and James's strange obsession with airplanes?
I talked to my mom about it a lot of times, and my mom said maybe he's remembering a past life.
What did you say?
Politely, baloney.
which means
Andrea and
ridiculous.
Bruce of Lafayette, Louisiana, are
Husband was not
ideas
willing to
of
believe on
To
reincarnation.
them, the
They're
possibility that their
Catholics.
son
There's no
James
concept of
would manifest
reincarnation.
signs of a former life was, well, a little out there.
You know, having a past life is not the initial conclusion that you come to. You try and figure out any other way he could have. Did he see anything? Has there been anything on television? Anything that we've discussed?
But as time went by, Andrea didn't know what to believe. Here's James at age 3, going over a plane as if he's doing a pre-flight check. He would continue to say and do things that were puzzling, like the time his mom bought him a toy airplane.
And I said, oh, look, there's a bomb on the bottom of it. He said, that's not a bomb, Mama, that's a drop tank.
A drop tank.
I'd never heard of a drop tank. I didn't know what a drop tank was.
Andrea's mother suggested she look into the work of counselor and therapist Carol Bowman. Bowman has written 2 books, both supporting the proposition that sometimes the dead can be reborn.
We are taught from a very early age in this culture, in the Judeo-Christian culture, that reincarnation doesn't exist. Once you observe this in a child, and the evidence is very compelling, you have to open up to another explanation for what is going on.
Bruce was deeply skeptical.
He said there has to be a logical explanation.
I don't believe in past lives. I don't believe in this stuff.
But with the violent nightmares recurring 3 and 4 times a week, the Leinegers felt they had to do something. So with guidance from Bowman, they cautiously began to encourage James to share his memories. They say the result was startling.
The nightmares immediately started reducing in frequency. He went down from 3 or 4 times a week to maybe 1 a week, 1 every other week. And at that point was when he started to articulate more.
Technical glitches resumes. So till the time he's fixing up. So the point of discussion going on here is there's a scientific evidence, a clear case of a reincarnation. So there's a very clear case of a reincarnation which is being discussed here. A boy who in his previous life was a fighter pilot. And the movie goes on, this interview goes on, I'll tell you what happened in the interview. Is coming.
These extraordinary stories, Bruce remained dubious, almost to prove they couldn't be true. He began to the core, for in many instances, the stories appeared to match the facts. Jane
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. All right, so 1 second. ठीक है. So we'll share this later on the WhatsApp group. Otherwise, is it coming? Let me just check it out. Okay, fine. So what happens, and I'll show you the last part of it. So he has a son who from his age of 2 begins to get a nightmare of a flight crash. And he has a tremendous amount of knowledge about planes, drop tank versus bomb. You saw that mother saying. The family is Catholic, the mother is Catholic, the father is agnostic. He doesn't believe in all this thing. And then there was a counselor who was saying, a child counselor who was saying that In Judaism, or largely it's all Abrahamic tradition. And Abrahamic tradition is Judaism, Christianity, Islam. There is no concept of reincarnation. But then she said there are some authors who have written, in some cases reincarnation happens. This is as much as Darwin's theory, how apes became men. So there's nothing like sometimes. So they began to do research. And as the child grew up, the nightmares became more and more strong. Now he began to draw. And one day, the father, while doing a research, he came across in 1945 Second World War. So what happened when the child would get a nightmare, the father would ask, wake up the child, what happened? What happened? James, what happened? I will say, James' plane is on fire. James, what happened? And he'll say, James' plane is on fire. And the father would say, which plane? Where is the plane? And when the father was researching, he found out in 1945, there was a fighter pilot by the names of James, who on his journey to Hiroshima, Nagasaki, met a crash. And then when it was discovered, it was found out this young boy is a reincarnation of that James. Let me see if I can play the last part of it. It's very interesting. Where the reporter asked the father, so, you have done your research, and it's a very clear evidence. Do you now believe in reincarnation? Now it's a question of ego. He says, what to do? I am forced to believe against my will. This is arrogance. Okay. Oh, 1 second. What happened to the sound? Sound to comes. Yeah.
And that
Once again, Charles Gibson.
and,
It doesn't move forward?
Charles Gibson.
and now
Too many technical glitches today.
Charles Gibson.
Okay, guys, we'll move forward. I hope you have. This guy doesn't pause also. I hope you got the gist of it. I didn't really wanted to show you the last part. Just give me 1 quick second. If I can pull out the last part, where is a very interesting reaction of the father when he was asked about it. Let me just see. Yeah, I'm just pulling out that same thing. If I can play it out. If I know where is the video. Is this the video?
Once again, Charles Gibson.
And now, one of the biggest questions of life. What happens when it's over? Heaven? Hell?
Where is
Nothing?
the screen?
Or might there be a fourth possibility, reincarnation? Could we come back as someone else? Here's Chris Cuomo with two down-to-earth parents who thought that...
You know, my meter of skepticism was
Is this the Natoma Bay? Man possessed, searching the internet, combing through military records, and interviewing men who served aboard the Natoma Bay. Finally, a breakthrough. He learned that there was just one pilot from the squadron killed at Iwo Jima. That pilot, James M. Houston Jr. Is this why little James was calling himself James 3?
it just crystallized in my mind. This has to be who we're talking about. You know, my meter of skepticism was starting to go over toward belief.
When little James would describe being shot down, he told of how his plane had sustained a direct hit on the engine.
We had an airplane, and I said, well, can you show me where it was? And he pointed right up to the front of the engine.
That's what makes this man's story so intriguing. His name is Ralph Clarber. Clarber was a rear gunner on a TBM Avenger that flew off the Natoma Bay. On March 3rd, 1945, he took part in a raid near Iwo Jima. As it happens, Clarber's plane was right next to the one flown by James M. Houston Jr. It was to be Houston's last mission before leaving for home the following day. As Clarber recalls, the sky was thick with enemy flak.
We experienced pretty heavy aircraft fire, but this was the most intense that I experienced at any time.
Suddenly, a flash near the nose of Houston's plane.
I saw the hit. I would say he was hit head on. Yeah, right on the middle of the engine.
Just as little James had described it.
So what do you believe now about your son James?
I believe that he had a past life. I believe that in his past life he was James M. Houston Jr. And he came back because he wasn't finished with something. And that's essentially what I believe.
Dear Bruce and Andrea.
And he's not the only one. This past October, the Leiningers received a letter from a woman named Ann Barron, the sister of pilot James Houston. Andrea and Bruce had contacted her about their little boy. Barron heard about what young James was saying, and she believes.
All of this is still overwhelming. I can only imagine how it has affected you.
So fine, these are all details going on there. So I hope this just sets up this was just a starting point. So the man with his limited set of understanding, he is coming to certain conclusion about reincarnation. But this is one scientific evidence we are just kind of presenting here. Now what the Vedic scripture says and all that, we'll take a look at it. So let's start with our presentation for today. Reincarnation, is it a fact or fiction? Well, a little bit take a look at logically. If I have to ask you, if for that reason anyone ever asks you, who are you or who am I? What is the response generally we give? Anyone? What's the response you give if I ask you, who are you? What do you say? Everyone would say my name. Yes? So we say, I am so and so. But no, every one of us, when we were born, then after a few days, generally after 7 days, there's a name giving ceremony. If I have to ask you now, if your name giving ceremony was on the 7th day, who were you on the 6th day? Who were you on the 6th day? Which son or daughter? Do you know whose son or daughter were you? You didn't even know what was your gender. What's the question of son and daughter? Think about it. We so much identify with the temporary things. Why we don't get to think about this very important subject matter? It's such a simple logical fact. The nature is designed such a way that everything is cyclical. If there is a sunset, sunrise is there or no? Has there ever been in the history of mankind when there was no sunrise? You may say that I didn't see sunrise. That is because of the rain clouds. Doesn't mean the sunrise didn't happen. Is there a change of season? Summer follows by a monsoon followed up by spring, winter. Yes or no? Does it happen only 1 year or every year? You look in the nature, everything is cyclic. And we are trying to set it up as linear. That it is only about one life. Where did this concept of one life came into existence? As much as James had a previous life, to that degree, each one of us, there's nothing random that one has a reincarnation, others don't have reincarnation. Again, we have already established our source of knowledge should be Shabda Praman, Vedic scriptures. We'll take a look what Vedic scriptures says. Now coming to the point, why we don't get to think about all this thing? Because we are too consumed with our well-being or daily life. I was quoting the other day, there was a famous incident that happened around 500 years ago where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was out on Harinam and somebody wanted to complain because he was disturbed. He was becoming envious of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu beyond the caste system, bringing everyone together and glorifying the Lord. This person went to the Muslim ruler and complained. And immediately Muslim ruler said something very interesting. When I read this thing, I had began to think that how much this is happening today. And he said, oh, he has taken all the strata of people together and they're chanting the names of the Lord. That's very easy to resolve. He told his soldiers, go and distribute free liquor. Go and distribute free liquor. Keep them intoxicated first. Second thing, even after this, if they do not stop, go and threaten them that you will destroy their livelihood. Now imagine what happens. First, you are intoxicated. Second, your livelihood is threatened. If you are into fear, constant fear, can you ever think on such subject matters? Well, first of all, my physical well-being has to be ensured. Now, fast forward to this century. Look about how much insecurity has been produced in the world. Even a senior manager in the company is in a constant fear. Oh, what will happen? Maybe I may get fired. If not, then how much fear is about the child protection? How much your parents worried when you were growing up? Where were you playing? And think about how much parents are worried today. If how many of you agree the parameter of fear, the index of fear, have exponentially heightened in today's generation than the previous generation? Yes or no? Therefore, today people are so much distracted, so much confused about life. Just like in this case, when the mother of James spoke to her mother, the grandmother said, yeah, this could be case of reincarnation. But the parents were not willing to believe. They were too much caught up in their own world. So we are too distracted. We are too much caught up with the basic maintenance, and that is what the society has given us, where we don't get to think, which is so straightforward. Let's take a look. We are born in this world, and we live for some point of time. They are living entities who take birth by the time of sunrise, and by the time of sunset, they die. Only difference is we get to see many sunrise and sunset. That's the only difference. And in this short tenure of could be 50, 60, 70, 80 years, the time you were born, you didn't know anyone. We all came naked. We all came empty-handed. How many of you going to carry with your bank balance? Even if you happen to have triple PhD in this lifetime, an owner of multinational company, next life when you're born, you'll be born naked and you still have to go to nursery. Hayana. But we are so caught up with our temporary things into this world. As soon as child is born, certain tags are given to him. The very first tag is gender. Second is religion, nationality, caste, parents, names, etc., etc. And consequences, rest of our life is spent protecting this inconsequential problems of life. Taking care of it. Look at the world around, what's happening. All the problems centered around my name, my religion, my family, my nationality, isn't it? And finally the person dies. He doesn't take anything along with him. And between this birth and death, we have forgotten the most important question. Why did I take birth? Why did I choose this particular parents? How did I got this particular family? Why was I born in this particular country? What happens after death? Regardless of whatever anyone can do, everyone has to face old age, death, disease. Why? Is there a way out of it? Nobody has time for it. We are so much caught up into it. So today's agenda, what we intend to discuss. Let's begin with asking a question. If I ask you a question, who are you? So generally, as we discussed a little bit before, generally people begin with saying, my name is so, my family name is so, and so forth. But that's not how Bhagavad Gita answers. But let's take a look, first of all, what science says. Now, our understanding of who am I is, I am this, what you see me, right? Which according to science is nothing but a bundle of chemicals. Dr. Harry Monson, professor of anatomy in Illinois College of Medicine, he took a case of an 80-pound person, which is close to 100 kg grown-up man. And he said, in the body of a grown-up man like this, the amount of chemicals, because modern science teaches us we are nothing but a bundle of chemicals. How much amount of chemicals represent? 5 pounds of calcium, half pound of phosphate, 9 ounces of potassium, etc., etc. This is the amount of chemicals which are found in the grown-up body. Now you may say, adding up, this doesn't turn out to be 100 kgs because there is 70% water. I have not included the weight of water here, okay? Just for FI, so you're clear with it. So what is the value of a 100 kg person? Most of you doesn't look like 100 kg. Let's take a higher case. What is the value of a 100 kg person? According to market value, even if you add GST in today's time, you will not add up more than 110 rupees. This is what science has made out of you. How much you're worth of? 110 rupees. This is not even worth your breakfast. Your breakfast is more expensive than 110 rupees. Imagine what mindset has been created. But do we really live our life in this way? Imagine your friend sitting in a $55,000 a BMW, and the cost of your friend is only 110 rupees. When that friend of yours meets an accident, what do you ask? Are BMW theek thak hai na? Is okay? Or you ask, how's my friend? Is he doing okay? Isn't it? But the point is, if according to science we're a bundle of chemicals, why are you so concerned about the friend? Which is most expensive? Is the car. We should ask about it. Just like once in a court, this happened in America, there was a fight going on between two lawyers regarding one particular client. This culprit had actually shot a person. So this lawyer was quoting a science book and he was saying, no, he is not a culprit. And the other lawyer said, we have a video proof. Then he said, even if you have a video proof, he's not a culprit. The lawyer asked, how come he's not a culprit? I have a video proof, documented proof. He said, no, he has not shot anyone. But the genes within his body have shot the other person. You want to capture the genes. This is what, when people want to argue about. But let's begin. What does our scripture say? So, what does Bhagavad Gita tells us about who am I? First of all, it says, please repeat after me. Na jayate mriyate va kadachan nayam bhutva bhavitva na bhuya ajo nitya shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Lord says, very simple in Sanskrit, na jayate mriyate va kadachin. The person does not die kadachin at any time. Nayam bhutva bhavitva na bhuya. He has not come into being, bhutva, he has not taken birth. Na bhuya, nor in the future he will take birth. He is unborn. Ajo nitya, ajo also means unborn. Nitya means eternal. Shashvat, permanent. Ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano, which means he is oldest. So question comes, who is he talking about? Is the living entity. But I am the oldest. I may be around 38, 40, 50, whatever year old I am. I have taken a birth. I am going to die. So why Lord is saying, na jayate mriyate va kadachin. At any time, he does not die. So who dies? Krishna says, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Hanyamane sharire. Hanta. Kill. Who dies? Sharira. I wanted to draw something. Some of my digital pen is not working. I'll explain you in a short while what it means actually. Krishna says, you are a soul. Please repeat after me. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jaraha tata dehantara prapte dhirastatra namuyati. Dehino, the one who is residing within this dehi, the body. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara. Dehe, dehinosmin yata dehe, the person who is residing within dehi, dehino. Dehe kaumaram yavanam jara. Dehe means sharir. That goes through transformation. When we were born, we were this much size. We became teenagers, we become middle-aged, and then we become old. What is changing? Dehe. The body is changing. Tata dehantra praptir. Similarly, dehantra, at the time of death, dehantra praptir. Similarly, just like body is constantly changing all through life. If you look back at a 10-year-old picture of yours, you will not identify yourself. You look very different than you are. According to the science, every 7 years, we have a new set of cells. In fact, we have a constant reincarnation going on within this lifetime because our body is entirely changed. Every cell is replaced. Tata dehantra praptir. After old age, what happens? When you give up this body, tata dehantra praptir, you acquire a new sort of body. And then Krishna said, dhiras, dhira, sober person. Dhiras tatra means therefore. Na, not. Muhyati means bewildered. Therefore, any sober person does not get bewildered when seeing the changes of the body. Because what is changing is the body. And what is consistent behind that body is the hinosmin, the owner of the body, which is the soul. Lord Shri Krishna is not saying this is for you and not for him. This is for Hindus, this is not for Muslims. Christians are exceptions. There is no concept. 5,000 years ago, this religion did not existed. Christianity is 2,100 years old, or less than that, and Islam is 1,600 years old. Judaism is a little older than that. Anything and everything modern religion we know is less than 3,000 years old. And this was spoken 5,000 years ago. There was no kind of this religion. So when Lord is speaking for everyone, because there was no religious discrimination or distinctions like that. Now, you want to understand this? Let's take a look. How does a soul or body relates with each other? An analogy is given of body being compared to a car and driver is being compared to a soul. Just like this body is compared to a vehicle where the soul is residing. Just like in a vehicle, there is a horn, we have a mouth. There is a eyes to speak, there is a headlights. Then there is a heart to pump blood, there is a radiator to supply water, and there are hands and legs to move in this body. Similarly, there are 4 wheels to move. The car actually cannot budge unless the driver is sitting. So what is death? I'll have to explain you through visually now because I cannot draw. The digital pen is now working. So according to science, our existence today, what they are understanding, we discussed the subject matter in detail in a series of talks called as mind management and mindfulness. So according to modern science, we exist at 2 levels, level 1 and level 2. Level 1 is body and level 2 is mind. All of you are aware of the word mind? And all of you are aware you have a mind? Can you tell me where is your mind? Where? Where is your brain? In the head. But who told you your mind is in the brain? What is the difference between mind and brain? What is the difference between mind and brain? Brain is the hardware, mind is the software. Okay, good analogy. Good analogy. Actually, the scientists are not able to decode so far. And the recent research says the mind is present all over. Yeah. Well, we discussed that in mind management series. That's okay. We can have some chair for gentlemen. Find out the chair inside. So, what was I talking about? So, level 1, level 2. The body and the mind. But Bhagavad Gita says no. You don't only exist at 2 levels. You exist at 3 levels. Level 1, body. Level 2, mind. And level 3 is soul. Sorry, I can't draw, but I hope you're able to get it. Soul, mind. It's not only mind, it's mind and intelligence. These are details of it. And then the body. Soul, for example, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you happen to see there is a lot of light coming inside your room, what would be the first question in your mind? What is the source of light? Yes? The living symptoms are represented by consciousness. This also science recognizes. My question is, what is the cause? What is the source of consciousness? That source of consciousness is soul. So soul is the root, R-O-O-T, of consciousness. And mind is the root, R-O-U-T-E, of consciousness. Mind is an interface where the soul interacts with the body. Without the interface of mind, just like the gentleman said, the software, if you have a smartphone, there are 3 things in the smartphone to function. One is the hardware. Other is a software, Android or iPhone. And what is the third thing? What is the third thing to make it work? Battery is also hardware, na? That's all. The user. Unless you have you operating, who will operate the smartphone? Yes or no? So you have a smartphone which has hardware and software, but you need a user. And the user gets in touch with the hardware and software interprets and all that. You're getting it? So the software interprets your movements. And that instructs the hardware to perform an action which you want to do. Just like calling up somebody. It's a software interface which pulls up. You type in something and it does the physical action like that. So that's the difference between, or that's the relationship between the body, mind, and soul. So what is death? What happens at the time of death? If just to speak on this side, once again, I hope you are stay on the same page. Body, mind, and soul. What happens at the time of death? At the time of death, the relationship between the mind and body breaks. So, body and mind, the relationship between the mind and the body breaks. It's just like you say your phone is spoiled. Hardware is still there, the software has become corrupted. It does not function. How many of you have your laptop have got crashed? It doesn't switches on only. How many had that experience? And you may say laptop is dead. Yes. What has gone wrong? The software. Agreed? So that's the thing. So the mind, it is not that mind gets corrupted on its own. There is a whole science how it happens. But the connection between the body and mind breaks. That is called as death. So what happens at the time of death? That mind, which is called a subtle body, accompanies the soul and accepts the another body, which means enters the womb of a mother. Now this you and I cannot dictate because none of us chose our parents. Therefore it says karmana deva naitrena deha jantur utpatte. Karmana by a karmana daiva by the authorities. Just like within this world we have so many authorities to govern people. Similarly, there are authorities to govern the functionings of this universe. Karmana daiva netrina. Under their supervision, the living entity acquires a new set of body. That's the point here. So, another example which is given in scriptures is like cage compared to body. Imagine a cage inside which there is a parrot. It's a gold cage. You're too attached to it. And every day you go and you brush it off, clean up the cage. But you forget about the parrot. What do you expect to happen after 20 days? Parrot will die? That's what is kind of happening with us. We are so much concerned about this bodily maintenance, but we have not given any attention or nourishment to our actual identity, who we are, the soul. Therefore, how many of you agree in today's generation as compared to previous generation, there are far much more comfort and facilities for entertainment available? Raise your hands. Comfort and facilities for entertainment available. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा तुम comfortable हो या नहीं हो. That is not my question. Don't overthink. My question is simple. Do you have far better facilities to living a comfortable life and better facility to enjoy life? Yes or no? Now, how many of you agree? We are struggling far more than previous generations. Raise your hand. 100%. Why? Because too much bothered about polishing the cage. Previous generation, everyone had some spiritual connection. Everyone will wake up in the morning, would do some spiritual practice. Unfortunately, we today call it as religion. What is religion? Religio is a Latin word from which the religion word has come. Religio means a group of people having a common faith. If you consider that, atheism is the biggest religion. Atheism is the biggest religion. There are a group of people believing God does not exist. That is not religion. So we have spiritual tradition. Every morning people will get up, will do something. Reflect upon your parents. सूर्य देव को पानी डालेंगे, घर में देवी को कुछ ना कुछ worship होती थी. They didn't have AC, they didn't have heater, they lived in the same conditions, troublesome condition, but they were still content. That's the point here, cage and a body. Parrot to a soul. So that with setting up some logical understanding, now come for some proof of source existence. Now, before I get into it, again go back to body, mind and soul. Death means the relationship between body and mind breaks. Who becomes a ghost? There are ghosts, ghostly beings, bhuta, pret, pishash, pital. There are varieties of living beings like that. Pret, the Sanskrit word means who does not have a physical body. Who does not have a physical body, which means the soul is hanging along with the subtle body, covered over by mind, intelligence and false ego. So, when a living entity is not awarded the next body, until that point of time it's called as pret. So when somebody dies, then you have the samskaras that we perform, the final rites that we do. The moment the person dies, the person becomes preta. This is, at least those who are more connected to tradition, they will understand. The moment the person dies, now he is not Mr. So and so, Sohan Lal, Pakka Lal, Kacha Lal, whatever your nickname of that gentleman was. Now he is only one Lal, Preta Lal. He is Pret. Pret means it does not have a grass body. Now, who gets to live in a Pret form? Those, according to the laws of karma, who have prematurely broken their agreement. Just like rented property, you have an agreement. When you have a rental property, you sign an agreement that if you're gonna evict or you're gonna leave the house, you'll give a 1 month notice. As a tenure is 1 year, and suddenly after 1 month you decide, you disappear. Then what owner would do? Owner will get you blacklisted in the whole society. Hypothetically assume he gets you blacklisted, which means now in that society you cannot get another apartment. You are preta. That is what means by pret. Which means you have prematurely, before your agreement, you have given up your body. Which happens in case of certain kinds of accidents, or largely in the case of suicide, when it happens. Then, because his term with that body, we don't know how long, but if you show it to good astrology, he'll tell you at the time of your birth for how long you're going to live. He gives you. In other words, माथे पे लिखवा के लेकर आता है हर व्यक्ति कितने साल इस दुनिया में तांडव करेगा, मतलब डांस करेगा, अच्छा बुरा, I don't know. So that's the point. Okay, let's go to proof of soul's existence. We'll take a look from 3 points of view: logic, science, and of course scriptures we have partly discussed. We'll take a look at it also. Now, why people, when this subject matters are there, you'll see it's very straightforward. But still people fail at times to understand. My observation is people pretend to be too busy in life. People pretend to be too busy in life. You tell them, oh, I don't have time only. Sometimes I say, मरने का भी समय नहीं है. इतने busy हैं. So there was an incident in a company where the manager had 2 landlines long ago, 25 years ago. He had 2 landlines in his office, and this guy was such a pretentious person. Anyone who would enter his office, suddenly he'll lift both the phones. Order supply hoga. Yes, what is your order? He'll keep on speaking on 2 landlines, and the person thinks the manager is doing a lot of hard work. Very good, don't disturb him. So one day one person knocked on the door and entered in his room. And as soon as the person walked into the room, he immediately lifted both the landlines and started talking. After his few seconds of drama, finally when he saw that this man is not leaving also, so he said, okay, on both the lines, hold on, somebody's on the door. He kept the phone and he said, yes, what do you want? He said, I'm a telephone operator, both your phones are dead. Oh, yeah, come. So we have got into this habit of saying that there's no time. We pretend we are busy and ignore the simple facts of life, which we're kind of going to discuss. Let's take a look at it. Logic, common sense, introspection, and we'll take a look. So, a common sense. When a person dies, what we say? So and so gentlemen have passed away, right? The way say in English. हिंदी में सबको स्वर्गीय कह देते हैं. सब स्वर्ग गए हैं. नर्क तो है ही नहीं जैसे कहीं. Everyone is स्वर्गीय. So, a very, very fundamental question. You see a dead body. स्वर्गीय हो गए हैं. He has passed away. अरे पूरे जीवन भर, whole life you were in touch with this body. The body is still there. Who has passed away? Abhi Atma is okay. That is understandable. Now you'll say Atma, but how much we have an understanding? Logically think, the person is still there. So there was this college girl and boy from Bombay who are from different family backgrounds, got in love affair, and they want to get married, and the family were entirely opposed. The boy was from Bombay and the girl from Uttar Pradesh. And the girl had her own political background. Family was of that. And the boy was a son of a big businessman. They both decided to run away and get married. And they happened to shift to some place in South India. Suddenly, a couple of months later, and their photos were all over the place. Missing. They both came from influential families. Suddenly, one of the person gets a call from a girl around 11 o'clock, college friend, saying that, oh, please help me. And the friend said, what happened? The common friend to both of them. He said, what happened? He said, your friend, my husband has died. He got a heart attack. He said, oh, so sorry to hear. Have you called the ambulance? She said, I can't call the ambulance, we'll be caught. So he said, okay, give me some time, I'll come. I'm in Bombay. For me to come to South India is going to take a couple hours. She said, no, but you do something. I cannot live with him. I mean, imagine you have a dead body inside your room. Now that dead body, couple of minutes before, an hour before, was your lover, for whom you're willing to break your relationship with the family. And now, when I was told like this, I was wondering, I said, interesting, isn't it? Now the person has become dead. The same person who you loved, now you say is no more. Now, who do you love? In our level, we love the body because we think that's a body. The body is still there. And the lady said, Arey, leke jao isko. How can I be in the same room with a dead person? So think about it. Who has passed away? It's not the body. So we are certainly something more than body. Let's move forward. Think about another aspect. Now people say, the food, the water, the air, that is essential for my livelihood, for my living. If that is what sustains life, if I would ask the question, what sustains life, you would have said, food, water, oxygen, whatnot, etc., etc. If that's what sustains life, think about it. Feed the best quality organic food. Feed him the spring water, the most expensive, and get him pure oxygen and give in abundance to a dying person. Can he still survive? So does that sustain life? Therefore, as I said, our tenure with this body is fixed. Nobody can break it before, or nobody can leave it. If you forcefully do it, then you are punishable by the laws of karma. So to think this way, that I am sustaining because I am eating, drinking, and having the oxygen, of course that sustains life. But that's not the only reason. There are higher powers governing it. Think about it. This was, we were discussing so far how common sense goes on. Now, generally we say, this is my hand, right? I will say, this is my laptop. This is my hand. These are my eyes. This is my nose. This is my head. Then where are you? Where are you? We are in Sangria, 18th floor. Sitting on the ground right now. Where are you? Now when I say this is my laptop, am I the laptop? Laptop is different than I. When I say, how many of you say this is my body? If I say this is my body, am I the body? This is called as logic. It's just so simple. We have made it so complicated, and we so strongly identify with this body. When we take the car for repair, we say, मेरा इंजन खराब हो गया है. कितनों ने सुना है? मेरा पेट्रोल खत्म हो गया है. You take to the petrol pump, गाड़ी को लेके जाते हो, and then you say, मेरा पेट्रोल खत्म हो गया है. अबे, not your petrol, गाड़ी's petrol is over, not your petrol. This is called as identification. You identify, this is my laptop, means I am the laptop. This is how we have been trained up in this environment of ignorance, because we don't have any Vedic knowledge, or we haven't had the time to study, or we so much misidentify things with it. Imagine if something happens for, let's say, your smartphone, if it gets lost or gets damaged. I mean, you still have a life to live. But at that point of time, person feel like, let me commit suicide. He gets so disturbed about it. It's okay, you have your life. It's not that something has happened to life. That is why we are so much in a struggling situation today. We so strongly identify with the matter. And the nature of matter is, anything which is matter, destruction is for certain. And when it is destroyed, we become restless. How it can happen? So my hands, my leg, my body, that was about common sense. Let's take a little introspection. People say, show me soul, show me soul. So somebody says, show me soul. Obvious question you can ask me, show me your mind. Can anyone show mind here? Oh, you don't have a mind? Show me your intelligence. Can you show your intelligence? So this whole idea, show me God, show me soul, I will only believe, only indicates that person doesn't have mind nor intelligence. Both are missing. Now how do you understand somebody has mind? कहते हैं ना लोग, दिमाग मत खराब कर मेरा, हाँ, गुस्सा आ जाएगा. Intelligence. Somebody scores nice in the marks. The teacher will say, "Oh, your son is an intelligent boy." Yes or no? So we have a way to identify. Similarly, how do we identify there is a soul? As I gave an example, if there is a light, it means there is a bulb somewhere nearby because of which the light is there. The symptom of soul is a consciousness, which is a living symptom. The difference, think about it. The existence, the proof of soul existence is consciousness. Think about it. There is this machine right in front of, there's a camera. Let's talk about the difference between man and robot. All of us right now, including that camera, is looking at the person speaking here. Right? Now, all this while, some of you have laughed, some of you have raised your hand. Did you notice the camera doing anything? There is a considerable difference between his seeing and your seeing. Although that is made up of chemicals, this body is made up of chemicals. But us have consciousness, which is symptomized by emotions. The machines don't have emotions. That is what is called as symptom of consciousness. The symptom of consciousness is, the source of consciousness is soul. So, take an example. Drama observed by a panel of judges. There is an experience, there is an elation, sorrow, anger, consciousness, and whatnot. But when the same drama is observed by a video camera, there is no experience, no emotion, no consciousness, and no judging. There is nothing of that. This is the difference between consciousness and non-consciousness. Let us analyze further living and non-living. Now, this is such a simple fact, but we have made it too complicated about it. What is living and non-living? This is living or non-living? This is living or non-living? What is the evidence? Prove it. What is the evidence? This is non-living, this is living. हाँ बोलो. तुमने बड़े confidently बोला non-living, living. तो मैं पूछ रहा evidence दो. You are right, I'm not saying wrong. But I'm asking you for the evidence. What evidence do you have? You say this is non-living and this is living. Feelings. Okay. I mean, you put a robot can give you a tight slap also. Yes or no? What do you mean response? Robot can act. What else? Huh? Sense. What sense? Well, like, what do you mean by sense? Action, reaction, common sense you're saying kind of thing. You take out your smartphone and speak to Google Assistant. Sometimes she's quite senseful. What else is the difference in living and non-living? Conscious and non-conscious. Okay, of course we were discussing conscious, non-conscious. So okay, good. What else? What do you mean by no life? What is a symptom of a life? Conscious, no conscious, same thing. What else? So, let me ask all of you. Please raise your hand. If you agree, raise your hand. If you don't agree, don't raise your hand, okay? Like that. How many of you say plants and trees have life? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of you say they don't have life? Please raise your hand. That's all right. Some of you say they don't have life. Now if you see this, yeah, living, you know. That's what I'm asking. They are living. Like us, we are living. So some of you say they're living, some of you say they're not living. Now all of you grown up, educated, engineering, doctor degree, not doctor, engineering degree, and whatever you have it. Why there is still difference of opinion? Because there is no clarity on it. Let's take a look at it. What symptomizes living versus non-living? Vedic scriptures put it very clearly. There are 6 changes living being undergoes. What are the 6 changes? There is a birth, followed up with growth. Then there is maintenance. Dwindling means old age. Before dwindling, there's a production of byproducts. Then there's a dwindling old age, and there's death. Yes? Just like you can't bring Maruti, Omni, and Alto together to give you Zen. Or a Ford or Mercedes together to give you helicopter. Nothing happens. Right? You bring 2 members together, they give you life. Byproducts are there. So, is it clear? We have all gone through birth. That's why we are here. We have grown up. There is a maintenance. A lot of maintenance is required. Production of byproducts. Old age and death. Is that clear for all? And now you see between plants and animals, all of them go through the 6. Now, what is the difference between this and this? There are 2 stages which the non-living does not undergo. What are the 2 stages? Living undergoes 6 stages and non-living only undergoes 4 stages. So, there is no byproduct and there is no growth. It is not that today this is my study table, tomorrow it will become altar. It's not that you get Luna, after 1 week it will become your Honda City. Luna is Luna only, it will only dwindle. Got it by now? So 2 things that doesn't happen in the non-living. There is no growth and there is no byproduct. Is that clear? That makes it. Now with this you can understand what is living, what is non-living. The plants, the birds, the bees, the animals, they all come, including the mammals, all come under living. And this is non-living like that. Now what is the difference? This is symptomized. Now why it is non-living and what is living? What makes it living and non-living? This is made of chemicals. This is made up of chemicals. But this body undergoes growth. This body produces byproducts. For example, the building that we are right now sitting in is nothing but a bundle of chemicals. Chemical means stone, water, cement, everything has come together. Now, has it come on its own? Building is non-living. This is non-living. But who gave the non-living shape like this? Living being. Living being gave a shape. Now, who is the root or the cause of the living? That is called as soul. The difference between this and difference between this is, of course, there are 2 stages are missing. But why there are 2 stages missing? For example, if there is a dead body, can it undergo growth? Can the dead body produce byproducts? So this is also dead. Why? There is no soul. Is that making sense? Because the soul is missing. It cannot have growth. It cannot have byproducts. Which means your plants have souls, your animals have soul, all of this. I remember there were a lot of churches around back in my college life in those days in America. So now I've graduated, I was going to office. So one particular day, outside the church, they would have a notice board, message of the day. And the message of the day, that particular day was, only humans have the right to go to heaven. And I go, this is too bad, huh? Why humans? What have they done? They only have a right to go to humans. Anyways, who gives a damn about it? I got nothing to do with it. I went to office and I was coming back. When I came back, when I was driving back, then I thought, let me just see what is the message of the day. Still the same thing or something changed? When I turned back, now the message was different. Now the message was different. The message was, only humans and dogs have the right to heaven. So I was very intrigued. Arey, dogs ko entry kyun mil gayi? How come dogs got the entry? Within few hours, the dogs was added into their scriptures. So how? So one of my college friend who used to have church service. So I called him over the weekend and I said, dude, this is something what I saw on this 2 days before. There was a Thursday message. I said, what happened? So he said, yeah, what to tell you? When we put that message of the day, one of our biggest donor, she saw that message and she became so upset. And she's a dog lover. She said, how dare you keep my dog in this world? How dare? So we got frightened. Because if we make her upset, our donation will stop. So we thought, let's add dog also. Let's keep her happy. Our donation will be happy. We'll be happy. I mean, this is what? This is not facts. Life has to be lived on facts. And that can only come as we're discussing from scriptures like Bhagavad Gita. So proof for source existence, common sense. Somebody says common sense is most uncommon. I don't know how much correct it is. You may decide for yourself. He has passed away. What nourishes life? And we say, this is my hand body. And the thing we talked about was introspection. Can you show me soul? I would ask him, can you show me your mind? We understand things from symptoms. Difference between robot and human. And difference between living and non-living. Let's go to the next. Science. What does science say? There's a concept in science called as near-death experience and out-of-body experience. According to Medical Journal of Current Problems in Pediatrics, 11 to 14% patients have out-of-body experience. What is out-of-body experience? The person is going through some surgery and he happened to witness all his surgery. He wakes up out of his anesthesia and he can clearly say what all happened with my body. So 11 to 14% patients have this out of body experience. This is medical terms, huh? This is not terms given in Bhagavad Gita. What is near death experience? Enough research in near death experience with impeccable scientific credentials. Dr. Michael Sabam. What it means, somebody who has come at the brink of leaving his body and have had that near death experience where he has literally left his body and again come back. And I will give you a real life case study. In San Diego, California, there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Prakash. He is himself narrating his story. He was from a Shaivite background, Indian, and we have a temple in San Diego. So his wife would every Sunday come for our Sunday program. Like we have a Saturday and Sunday program, like that they would come. So Mr. Prakash, he was only interested in only one thing, prasadam. So he would leave his wife, go back home, and then on the pretext of picking a wife, come for the prasadam, honor prasadam, pick his wife, go back. That was his spiritual practice. Prasadam seva. So that is what he was doing weeks and months after. One day, Mrs. Prakash, in a very frantic and voice filled with anxiety, called up the temple president, that point of time, Badrinath Prabhu, and said, Prabhuji, we need your help. We need your prayers. Prabhu said, what happened? My husband have gone into coma. My husband has gone into coma. I want you to come and meet him and pray for him, chant the holy names for him. So the temple president obliged. So this patient, Mr. Prakash, was in coma for almost a month. How long? Almost for a month. And our temple president would have visited him a few times. Every week he will go and read some shlokas of Bhagavad Gita and chant for him. One day after a month, Mrs. Prakash again called up the temple president. Prabhuji, you have to rush to the temple right now. Please come. He said, what happened? He said, my husband has come out of coma and he only has one thing in his lips. I want to meet Badrinath Prabhu. I want to meet Badrinath Prabhu. He's calling for you. And Badrinath Prabhu is saying, इतने साल आया कभी मुझे पूछा तक नहीं. एक महीना छुट्टी पे चला गया मुझे ही पूछ रहा है. What happened? So why he said, I also don't know. Why is he calling your name again? Please come. So Badrinath Prabhu rushed to the hospital. And this is happening in this, the room in the hospital. So then when Badrinath Prabhu went and reached the patient, this man who is sitting now caught hold of the hands of Badrinath Prabhu. He said, Prabhuji, they came for me. And Badrinath Prabhu is like, who came? And the wife is wondering, who came? The nurses are wondering, who came? So now when something like this happened, you begin to think. So the nurses said, oh, we were here always, we never left. Again he said, no, they came. The wife, and you can imagine temple president must be frozen by now. Arey kaun aaya re? Mera haath pakad ke bol raha hai, dekhe. So wife said, no, are you talking about your cousin? Are you talking about your relatives? We were also here. No, they came, Badrinath Prabhu, they came. So Badrinath Prabhu thought maybe he's talking about him. He said, yes, I came every week. So he said, no, they came. And then it clicked to Badrinath Prabhu. Who came? He said, can you please describe how did they look? It's a real life story. And he said, Prabhuji, they looked terrible. They were horrific. They were threatening. And now Badrinath Prabhu understood. They were Yamdutas who had come with Yam Pash to catch him and take to Yamlok. So now Badrinath Prabhu asked, what happened? And he said, Prabhuji, when they came, I saw them. I was crying out of fear. And I said, you do whatever you want. Because I was screaming. Nobody was hearing. My wife was here. She had no idea I'm screaming. Nurses were here. I was screaming. Nobody had any idea. I tried, but they were able to pull me out. Then I said, okay, you do whatever you want. I have taken shelter of Krishna. The moment I said Krishna, they left me here. The moment I said Krishna, they left me and they disappeared. After a few days, same people came back again. I was so terrified. Again I said, I have given up everything. I am fully dependent on Krishna. The moment I said Krishna, they went back again. They came back the third time also. Three times they came to take me. I was crying, I was begging for my life. When they would not listen, I said, whatever you do, I have decided to give up myself to Krishna. The moment I'll take the name of Krishna, they will disappear. And then the fourth time, but they were, Are, chauthi baar bhi aaye. So the man said, no, listen. Badnapur, listen. They didn't came. The very effulgent ones came. Vishnudutas. It's very categorically mentioned. Either you get to see Yamdutas or Vishnudutas. And he has not read, by the way, not read any book. As I made a point, he would only come to drop his wife, go back, come for prasadam, which means he had never heard about Vishnuduta Yamdutas. He said very effulgent personalities came. And he had asked them, who are you? So they said, we are Vishnudutas. And they came and they said, because you have decided to take shelter of the Lord, we have come to tell you that we'll give you one more chance. And he said, after that I woke up. So Badrinath Prabhu happened to discuss with the doctor later on, and the doctor said, we almost lost him 4 times. We almost lost him near-death experience. And this man, after a week, he was released, and he immediately went, not to his own temple. He said, Prabhu, I'm staying with you here only now. Now, if you go to San Diego Temple today, and if you happen to see a person worshipping deities on the altar, this is Mr. Prakash. He's the temple pujari of our San Diego Temple, worshipping Shri Radha Krishna. There's an example of a near-death experience. Now, there are a lot of examples and a lot of case studies of past life memories. Let's quickly watch this video. Volume.
It was about the 4th or 5th time, and she died in one of these lifetimes.
1 second. My PowerPoint crashed. I hope I don't have to restart. What happened to this guy? Okay, 1 quick second. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. One thing, I mean, this very profound statements, Dr. Brian to be noted now, is not Pastor Brian. He's making. And one thing he said, this whole experience was very healing. Because he lost his father, he lost his 23 days old son. The science of soul, if you see, is actually very healing to the self. How? When a person passes away, we become very hopeless, very confused with the current set of ideology, will not see this person ever again. But now imagine if you know that, oh, he's eternal, he never dies, he's gone on to the next destination, and similarly I'm going to move on to next destination. I came from one destination to this body, similarly he came from another destination body. How many of you feel there is a sense of composure, there is a sense of relief as compared to the sense of fear that arises? That's it, game over, nothing else. South Africa, a young boy studying in college, he got in touch with ISKCON, started reading Bhagavad Gita. He was a Christian, became a devotee of Lord. His father was a very staunch Christian, didn't believe in reincarnation, was a very wealthy businessman. One day the son was traveling from his college, he was returning, and he met into a car accident and he died on the spot. He was the only son of father. Father was devastated. Long story short, a couple of months later, his father was in, kind of an acute sense of loneliness. He was missing his son a lot. So he decided to enter the room of the son. And there, when he was looking around, recollecting the memories of the son, he came across the bag, which was the property the police gave him, the last property found near the son. So he thought, okay, let me just open the bag of my son. And he opened the bag, college bag, and there was a copy of Bhagavad Gita. And the moment he opened, till now he had not opened because he was like, this is different religion, this is different religion. Therefore, I made a point before. Krishna spoke this message before even Abrahamic traditions took birth. Nowhere in Bhagavad Gita Krishna said this is for Hindus, this is for Muslims, this is for Christians. There's no, I mean, if we are not the body but soul, how can a soul have a religion? Bodies, we identify, this is male, female. But what is it when you talk about soul? Soul is a part and parcel of the Lord. Do you think there is one Lord who's producing X amount of souls, another Lord producing Y amount of soul? That doesn't make sense. So when this father looked at the book Bhagavad Gita, he was a little bit filled with anger. Then he thought, what is so special in it that my son got attracted to it? And he opened randomly a book. And when he opened the verse that we read, 20th verse of chapter 2, Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. The body, the person is eternal. Ajo nitya shashvato yam purano. And he read the translation. The person is eternal, person is unborn, does not have come into being, does not ever will come into existence. He is the oldest, he is eternal. It is the body that takes birth, it is the body that dies. That became the turning point for this man. He felt such a sense of relief. My son is there. He's not dead. And then he went and started visiting temple. And then he started learning Bhagavad Gita. And his life was entirely changed. I can give you hundreds of examples like that. It gives you hope. Rather than the today's ideology which makes you hopeless. I've met so many times, so many people who say, oh, I love my husband, or I love my mother so much, if they die, I would commit suicide. I cannot live without them. You might have come across such thought process also. There was never ever a case of even a thought of a suicide in a Vedic society. Because life is eternal. Many, many examples can be given. Dr. Satvant Pastricha, National Institute of Mental Health. She also had worked on a lot of case studies and verified scientifically. I'm just quote one case study of Shukla. She was 1.5 years old when she would catch up a pillow and call that pillow as Minu. A 1.5-year-old girl, small baby girl, catch hold of a pillow and would caress the pillow as if the mother is holding a child, and she'll call the pillow as Minu. Minu. And the parents were worried. She grew up to be a 5-year-old, and when she became 5-year-old, she began to speak about her past life. The village where she was, her husband's name, her daughter's name, everything. When she became 7-year-old, her memories were becoming more and more stronger. She was born into a simple family background. They consulted everyone. They thought, okay, let's find out how much fact is there in what she's saying. So she was taken to a village where there were no road signs. There are no road signs in the village. They reached there by the station. As soon as they got on the station, Shukla, this girl, was on her own. She was confidently walking in that village where they have never ever gone. She's a 7-year-old girl, and she's walking in through the different lanes, and she comes and stands on the doorstep of one door and turns back and says, I have reached the house of my husband. They knock the door. She has already told who all lives in the house. And when the father entered and inquired, every single member was identified by this Shukla even before they had entered. This is the time way before when there was internet. Case of reincarnation. She was little more than 5. She went like that. She could identify her previous lifetime house, the previous family members, their nicknames and everything. We've already discussed the story of James, about he. So many other examples can be given. Phobia. Dr. Ian Stevenson says, how many are afraid of height? How many are afraid of water? Now, you may or may not necessarily have had any accident with water or height. But there are people, they are claustrophobic. They're afraid of a closed space. Such people cannot enter into a lift by themselves. The question the Dr. Ian Stevenson raises, from where they are paranoid? From how are they paranoid? If imagine, you let's say you have touched your hand to a fire and your hand has got burnt. Now next time you're careful. But if you have not fallen from a height, if you're not drowned in a river, why are you afraid of the water and the height? Yes? So Ian Stevenson says this is only possible that in your previous lifetimes you have had an accident, either of it. Because of which the impression is so strongly there in your consciousness. As soon as you come in contact with it, you become fearful. Not only that, difference in temperaments of twins, although they're made of the same genes, If they are programmed similarly, why their temperament is different? Dr. Ian Stevenson says it's only possible if there are two different living entities within the same machine. The machine is same, which means you may have the same iPhone, but the user is different. The users will use the iPhone differently. That is the point about it. Then unacquired and uninherited skills. There's so many examples of young boys and girls. There was a famous example of Sri Lanka, a daughter of a big minister, and she knew when she was only 3-4 years old how to take a leaves and build a thatched roof. Who knows of it? And she had the skill set. So Dr. Anne Stevenson says unacquired, unherited skills is an indication very well that they had a past life. There are more than 100 books proving reincarnations like that. A lot can be spoken. Science, documented and verified cases, phobia comes from past life, temperaments in twins, unacquired and uninherited skills. So we saw logic and science. Let's take a look at scriptures. What does scripture says? Please repeat. Vasam sijinani yatha vihaya navani granati naroparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. Straightforward Sanskrit. Vasamsi, vastra. Jirnani, jirna, old, torn. When your clothes are torn apart, what do you do? Throw away. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. You give away. Navani grihanati naropanani. And then navani grihanati. Grihanati means accept. Navani, the new dress. Then you accept the new dress. Similarly, Sharirani vihaya jirnani. Sharirani, when the body, jirnani, becomes old. Vihaya, you give it up. Tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani. Anyani samyati navani dehi. At that point of time, navani dehi, you accept a new body. So what is death? Change of old garments and accepting a new garment. What is there to cry about? One point of view, you should be happy the person got rid of his deceased body. Think about it. He was struggling with the old body, he has got rid of it, now he has a new body. So there are different ways of looking at it. We have already discussed about na jayate mriyate, I'll not quote that verse again. And also you are a soul, the hinosmen like that. So the third thing, the gross and subtle coverings. I've already explained you about 3 levels: body, mind, and soul. So at the body level, Lord Shri Krishna says, please repeat, Bhumirapo nalo vayu Kammano buddhire vacha Ahankara ityam me Bhinna prakritirashtadha. So Krishna speaks about the gross, level 1, level 2 types of bodies. The body is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. Yes? When you burn the body, what remains? Ashes, that is earth. More than 70% in the body is water. You're breathing in and out, that is air, earth, water, fire. If you see, we are a walking oven. 98.4 Fahrenheit temperature. We are walking oven. And ether is a space between molecules. Earth, water, fire, ether. Is this not made of earth, water, fire, ether? This is also made of that. Every matter is made of that. Every form that we have. That is gross body. Bhumi Rapa Nalovayu. Then there is a subtle body. Krishna says, Man Buddhir Ahankara. That is called a subtle body. Mind, intelligence, and false ego. Bhinna Prakritir Ashtadha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, 5. Man, Buddhir Ahankar, 5 plus 3, 8. Bhinna Prakritir Ashtadha. Arjuna, they are my energies. Is that clear? Whose energies? Krishna says, they are my energies. So types of bodies, we already discussed. Inferior material body, gross body, and subtle body. And then there is a superior spiritual body whose nature is Satchit Ananda. We'll speak about the soul sometime in future more when we talk on mind management. The gross body is made up of that. So when Dr. Harry Monson said 5 pounds of calcium and all that, he is correct. because he's talking about the gross body. Unfortunately, they don't have an understanding of subtle body and the soul. Subtle body, mind, intelligence, so कहते हैं false ego, and the spiritual body is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Okay, let me ask this question. How many of you agree, nobody wants to die in this world? Yes? Don't say, no, Prabhu, I know this person was very deceased. He wanted to die. That's an exception. If he did not had a deceased body, if he did not had a troubled life, he would also want to live. So from where do we getting that urge to live forever? That's the nature of the soul. How many of you think that we are always seeking after knowledge? Yes or no? Okay. If you have not understood, tell me this. How many of you say you're very curious to know what's happening around? That means knowledge. Yes? When you're seeking, when you're curious, curiosity is there, which means you're seeking for knowledge. Sat, Chit. And how many of you are looking for misery? Which means you're searching for Ananda. Yes? Whose nature it is? Now this is not Sat Chit Ananda. Then how this is Sat Chit Ananda? Because that's the nature of the soul. Do you find any contradictions here? It's straightforward, crystal clear. There's no if and but here. The soul is covered by gross and subtle coverings. And within that is the soul. This is called as three-level model of the self, as Krishna presents in Bhagavad Gita and as the scriptures talk about unequivocally all across the scriptures. This is a concept. So, to do a quick recap, we discussed who am I, the proof of soul existence, logic, science, Vedas, and then gross and subtle coverings of the body. To conclude with, I'll just quote some FAQs which people ask on this subject matter. What happens to us at death? I already said, just like the old garments are given away, except a new garment, similarly at death. Lord Shri Krishna says, 15th chapter, verse number 9. Please repeat after me. Shrotram chakshu spashnam cha rasanam grahanam evacha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. Lord says, Shrotram chakshu sparshanam rasanam grahanam evacha adhishtaya manas, mind. So when a person acquires a new body, what he gets? He gets a new instrument of ear, eyes, tongue, nose and sense of touch. And these all are grouped around the mind. It is based on what your mind wants, you see, you hear. We are kind of controlled through our mind. This is called as mana shashrani indriyani. That's the point. Mana shashta indriyani. So 5 senses, eyes, nose, tongue, ears and touch. This is 5. Manha Shashta Indriyani are grouped around mind. So it becomes Mana Shashta Indriyani. Like that Bhagavad Gita says. So that's what happens when we give a body. Take a look. Soul changing bodies. Different physical forms. But behind all of that is consciousness. And the root of consciousness is soul. There are 8.4 million species of life forms, varieties of bodies, in which this living entity can be disposed. Different forms only. At the end of the day, we are the soul. Therefore, scripture says, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. We are one family because we are part of one Father. So, question comes, is the soul in everybody the same soul? No. No. Please repeat. Na tu evaham jatu nasham. Na tvam neme janadipa. Na chaiva na bhavishyama. Sarve vayam athaparam. Na tu eva aham. I. There was no time when I did not existed. Natvam. Krishna speaking to Arjuna. Nor there was any time when you did not exist. Natvam. Neme janadipa. And nor this kings and soldiers. There was never ever a time when I, you and the soldiers did not exist, which means we all are unique. We all have our own identities. Na chayava na bhavishyama, not in the future. There would not be any situation in the future when you and I would not exist. Sarve vayam atha param. Never ever would be a time when we'll cease to exist. But what is the relationship between us and Krishna? Mamayavamso jivaloka jivabhuta sanatana. Krishna says every living entity is Mamayavamsho amsha. Who's Mamai? Every living entity is my part and parcel. Mamayavamsho jivaloka jivabhutaha. All living entities in this creation are my part and parcel. Okay, we'll take that subject matter in future session. Does the soul have a form? Yes. The soul gives form to a matter. What is the size of the soul? It is described in Shveta Avtara Upanishad. The size of the soul is 1/10,000 tip of the hair. You can catch your hairs, mine are gone. So you can figure out what's the size of your soul. So size is 1/10,000 tip of the hair. Like that. Either be an ant, an elephant, or the whale. How can we see the soul? Yes, you can see the soul. How? Can we see oil in the oil seeds? Can we see ghee in the milk? And can we see sugar in the sugar cane? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? Through a procedure. Yes, we can. Right now we may not, but through the procedure we can. Similarly, we may not be able to see, but through a procedure, when we follow, we can see. Different branches have different apparatus: physics, chemistry, biology. Material science and spiritual science is the same in that matter. So what is the aim in this case when we are trying to search out the soul, when we want to see, if that's the project? So aim is to see the soul. What would be the apparatus? Spiritual apparatus. What would be the theory? Bhagavad Gita to begin with. What is the procedure that we have to follow? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What would be the observation? Experience the presence of soul. Conclusion: if you are able to experience the presence of soul, then you conclude soul exists. So when the apparatus, it is a spiritual apparatus, which means it is not that if you want to see the soul, you go and tell your wife or husband, please chant tomorrow onwards, so that I can see the soul. No. It is, we have to practice it. Who has to practice? I need to chant. So here, the difference between physical, the science, and the Vedic science is the object of experiment. It's not somebody else. You are the object. Why? Because we are undergoing self-discovery. What we are undergoing? Self-discovery. We are trying to find out who we are. And scripture says, you're not the body but spirit, soul. To search out the soul is called as self-discovery. So what is the field of experiment? This body. Who has to perform an experiment? The owner of the body. Which means I have to. And how to perform the experiment? The procedure is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Why? How this procedure will work is a subject matter in detail, but just to give you a hint, so you can start from today onwards, at least 15 minutes every day to start practice this mantra meditation. This chanting of the holy name of the Lord, the mantra, man means mind, tra means delivers. The bottleneck, what is obstructing our vision of the soul, is our mind. So this mantra meditation, mantra, which delivers the mind, which takes us beyond the mind. Right now, whatever we think, whatever we do, everything is based on our perceptions. You agree? The knowledge that we acquire, that creates perception. Based on that perception, we look at the world. What does mantra meditation does? It takes you beyond your perceptions. How it happens is as much as the same, and you get fever and the doctor gives you medicine. When you take a medicine, your temperature becomes normal. Now you don't get into the science of that medicine, how that medicine works and all that. When you experience the temperature is becoming normal, that is the efficacy of that medicine. So you are not the first person on whom some clinical experiment is being done. From the beginning of the time, that's a process given, mantra meditation. Everyone have done it. Everyone have tested the result who have taken to the process. If you do it, you also get the result. That's the point about it. Coming to the conclusion, on what basis the soul is awarded the next body? Obvious question. How do we get the next body? Bhagavad Gita says, consciousness at death. Please repeat. Yam yavapi smaran bhavam tayajate yante kalevaram tam tameveti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavita. At the time of quitting this body, whatever the consciousness of the person, that's how you get your next body. Which means whatever your consciousness right now, accordingly your next body is prepared. Because when you're going to quit this body, we don't know. So our next body is like a constant preparation. Based on our consciousness, that next body is available. And if you change your consciousness, the next body changes. And the time of quitting whatever consciousness, yam yam vapi smaran, bhava. Bhava means nature. Accordingly, you acquire the next set of body. Therefore, it is said, therefore at the time of death, which they say, Ram Naam Satya hai. But the only unfortunate thing is, they are teaching that person after death. Ram Naam Satya should have been told to him before his death. Now after his death, you say Ram Naam Satya. Who is going to hear? The fellows who are chanting Ram Naam Satya, after chanting Ram Naam Satya, the next time they will hear only in their ceremony. Only thing is they will not be able to hear in their ceremony, but people will sing for them. So why they say Ram Naam Satya hai? Only truth is the Lord, who is eternal. And His name is not different than Him. So having a darshan of the Lord or chanting the name of the Lord is non-different. Ram Naam Satya hai. So make sure we say before. And we start from today only. You don't have to say Nam Nam Satya, you can start with chanting of Hare Krishna. What is the difference in the body and soul? Body is matter, not conscious, changes, temporary, dead. Body, soul is spirit, conscious, it never changes, it's eternal, and it's always alive. Now, conclusion. To conclude, despite so much proof to consider ourselves a mere machine is unscientific and condemnable, as we are restricting one's growth on the spiritual path. Today, everyone is health conscious, yes? If you're traveling in a train, nobody will going to get down and take a water from the normal tap on the station. Everyone looks for Bisleri. Everyone is health conscious, but these efforts are usually focused on physical well-being. We really focus enough on our emotional and mental health. And most importantly, rarely on our spiritual well-being. Remember the example of a parrot in a cage? Nourishing our soul is arguably the most important agenda we ought to be attending in this human form of life, because the animals and plants don't have that opportunity to think. But humans have that opportunity. We discussed about commonality between humans and animals in the previous session. To conclude, you're not the body that you see in the mirror. You're the Atma, the real driver of the bodily car. To conclude, we discussed in today's session, who am I? Proof for soul's existence. Through logic, through science, what the Vedas says. We also saw there are three levels of existence: gross and subtle body of coverings of the body. And we also discussed some frequently asked questions. What happens after death? Is the soul in every body the same? Does the soul have a form? The size of the soul? How can I see the soul? Follow the procedure. How does one acquire a new body? And the last difference between body and soul. With that, we conclude our today's discussion. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any question? We can have the mic, please. We can have the mic, please. The online audience get to hear him. You should have sent it with the yes.
So, answer from mouth means remain the same. That who are you? So if you ask me the question again, who are you? So I will say I am Virendra. So that all is the understanding part, not the means what we can say through.
See,
mouth.
you being Virendra is not false.
Yeah.
But for you to consider I am only Virendra is wrong.
Yeah.
You are not only Virendra. That Virendra did not exist on the 6th day of your birth.
Right.
So what you have learned today, that I am not only Virendra, I am not only male, I am not only Hindu, I am not only Indian, I am not only Indian IT engineer. I am something more than that.
Right.
I also have body, mind, intelligence, and prior to that I have soul, which means I am the soul. And the soul is covered over by the software and the hardware, which we are ought to utilize. And that is what Bhagavad Gita teaches.
Yeah.
And then comes a very important discussion. If I am soul, not the body, how my tomorrow looks different than today? Until today, I am living as if I am the body. But you tell me, Bhagavad Gita tells us we are not the body but spiritual. I am not saying Dr. Bryan said, Dr. Anne Stevenson said, there was so much research, scientific evidences that told you that you are not the body. So question should come, how my tomorrow looks different than today? That's the subject matter of Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, right.
That Bhagavad Gita teaches you how tomorrow, which means once you understand you are not the body but soul, how you should balance out your responsibilities. One responsibility to take care of the body and the relationships related to body, and other responsibilities to take care of your spiritual self.
Right.
And both have to be balanced.
Yeah, with today's session, what means, it is all I understood, but the answer remain the same,
Yeah, answer will remain the same unless you start the experiment.
Yeah, right.
We gave you theory.
Yeah.
You start experiment. Maybe next time you say, your answer is, I am not Virendra, I am the soul. Once you have done your experiment. Any other question? Yes, please. Behind. Keep it on, keep it on. It's switched off now.
Prabhuji, I asked this question in the first session as well, in the last, that you yourself said that soul is having the size of whatever 1,000 time of the hair.
Okay.
So it is a physical thing, which I believe Gita is saying, right? So where
Physical means what?
No, it is a physical thing because it has a size, right?
Okay.
So where does in our body that soul is? And
Oh, fantastic.
when we are dead, how does it leave our body?
Yeah.
Through which channel? And I have another question.
We will go with one by one.
Okay.
The soul is surrounded by 8 kinds of air. Prana, Apana, Samana, Udana. Like that, there are 8 kinds of airs. And the scripture says it is hanging below the area of heart. Surrounded by these airs. Our body is nothing if you see Kapha Pitta Vata. Ayurveda describes Kapha Pitta Vata, air. There is a lot of air things. For me to speak, there is an air required. For me to evacuate, there is an air which pushes in. There are 8 kinds of airs which performs. To open the eyelids, it happens because of the Vata, air. Everything happens. So there are 8 kinds of airs surrounding the soul, which is hanging below the area of heart, like that, which is very categorically mentioned. If you read 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 11th verse up to 30th verse of 2nd chapter, you'll find answers to all these questions there. Next question.
You said that at the time of that, whatever any soul is thinking, he will get the new body, right? So let's say, that means assuming, let's say I am bodily a male, I may get a female body as well next time, right?
Every possibility is there.
I may get another animal body as well next time. So that means when I convert to an animal, that body doesn't have the ability to think or
Correct.
or grow soul in a soul manner, right? So that soul will then go on in the animal body. Is that so?
Oh yes, correct. If you have a Luna, you can only run at the speed of Luna. But you drive a Mercedes, you have the facilities of Mercedes. So now therefore scripture says the human form of life is very rare. Why? 8.4 84 लाख योनियों में मनुष्य योनि आती है. मनुष्य योनि को खो दिया, पशु पक्षी की योनि मिल गई. There is a whole cycle of evolution. Once you degrade down to anything below human form of life, then you have to go through the cycle of evolution, which means What is a cycle that we don't know? How the 48.4 million species grow? Let's say if you take a birth in one particular plant species, then according to the law of nature, whatever is the process of evolution, after that, what is the next plant? What is the next? You have to go all through that and come to a human form of life. Can you imagine 84 lakh lifetimes later we may get? Or we may get it after this also, depending on what we do. But the Bhagavad Gita is not telling us to get another body. The message of Bhagavad Gita is to go and take a birth in a place where you never have to take birth again. We'll discuss that. This is our subject matter of Sunday. We discussed last time also when we talk about cosmic travel. What should be our itinerary of life? What's our next destination? So far we know that there is this world and there is this planet on which life is there. In science, you can go and study. There is something called as anti-material and material. We are in material world, and science today recognizes anti-material world, which we call it as spiritual world, which has a feature or nature characteristic entirely opposite to matter. That is called as anti-material. The science have recognized it. 1954, those two scientists who gave this theory won the Nobel Prize in physics on anti-material theory, like that. So there is a world where you go, where you have realized and you're into your true spiritual form. That time there is no birth, old age, disease, no death. There is no adhyatmik, adhibhautik, adhidaivika kaleshas. There is no misery, nothing. There is that creation that exists. Bhagavad Gita has so much knowledge to offer. We are just discussing the very first instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Second chapter. First chapter Krishna did not speak only. Second chapter Krishna began, and there he said, you are not the body but soul. Bhagavad Gita just has begun. But what we are giving you through this course is kind of give you some 5 important topics, so you get an overall idea of what Bhagavad Gita can give me in my life. It is meant to inspire to start reading it or join more forums or programs that we have. And even in that situation, you're not able to continue, but at least take the process of mantra meditation. Start the experiment. And I am not saying the soul exists. Scientists said and Bhagavad Gita said. I am repeating that. What are the evidences presented? Not that I think like that. So please understand that I am not saying that I think soul exists. Krishna says, and we give you scientific evidences, right? What other evidence can we ask? Anything else? Yes, Mridula, right? Mike, please.
What is the reason of existence of this cycle of soul taking body after body, and how long does it continue? And what happens?
As long as you want it to continue. It's up to you. It is you who have chosen to be in this world. And it is you who decide to continue in this world. If you want to quit this world, Krishna says, Sarva dharman pratyaja maam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tum sarva papabhyo mokshami masuchaha. And the moment you realize and you re-establish your relationship with your Supreme Father and Mother, you had a mother-father? Your mother-father had their mother-father? My question to you is, from where did this whole process started for you? And similarly for all of us? From where did it started? You go generation back, from where it started? The science says it started with amoeba. Do you think our great-great-grandparents were amoeba? It's ridiculous what science teaches us. But as I said, we are too distracted in our life, we never think about these basic facts. So, if our parents are human beings, how come their parents be amoeba? Has to be human beings. So question arises, who was the first human being? So first human being is Swayambhuva, Manu and Satrupa. And who is the father of them? Brahmaji. From where did Brahmaji came? From the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So where it all started with? Vishnu. That's it. Now if you go back to Vishnu, you're out of this world. And for that you have to read Bhagavad Gita and chant Hare Krishna.
we are not governing this movement of soul into a new body. So who is governing that and how it will stop?
Say that again.
We are not responsible for a soul finding a new body.
We are responsible.
We are not taking that decision for
You
us.
don't take a decision. How much decisions you make? But you get the result. Now, is there anyone who decides the result of your work? Is there anyone who decides the result of your work? If I work hard next year, I am sure I'll get promotion. You can be sure as much as in your dreams. But can you ascertain you will get promotion? You don't decide your results. You only can perform action. Therefore, there is so much discussion on karma in Bhagavad Gita. If you perform pious karma, you get pious results. If you perform impious karma, you get impious results. And Krishna says, perform an action such a way, you don't get either of it. Pious or impious. That action which breaks the shackles of this bondage, sets you free. Again, we are going into a little further subject matter which we have not touched upon. But again, understand, Bhagavad Gita has an incredible piece of knowledge. Anything else? Yes, up here.
Yes, some online questions.
Online, you can read out the question. Read out the questions.
Yeah.
If anyone is so tired, we're just having question answers. You are more than welcome to go ahead and have dinner. And those who wish to attend, sit. We're just having question answer. Session has actually ended. Yes.
This is related to dharma, where the person is saying that Abrahamic religions they are just recent religions, Abrahamic religions. So when Krishna said, "Sab dharm ko chhodkar meri sharan mein aao," but at that time there was no dharma. So please clarify.
Dharma means occupational duty. Dharma means duty. First you have to understand dharma. Yes. Dharma is your action that you perform. Therefore, the social and spiritual division is called as varnashrama dharma. Your occupational duty is dharma. The dharma of a living entity is to serve. The dharma of a living entity is to serve. You take a case of tree, you take a case of anything. Everyone is serving somebody. That is, the dharma of a sugar is sweetness. Cannot be taken away from it. So what is the dharma of a living entity? Is to serve. So there are two ways you serve. One is the social order, one is spiritual order. Social order is your occupational duty. Spiritual order is you are a brahmachari, right? Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi. That is a spiritual order. But the social order is you are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. That's an occupation. Alright? That's a dharma. Give up these identifications, become a devotee. That's what we mean by Sarva Dharman. Next.
There are 2-3 more questions. Why the cases of reincarnation are not common? Why it has very few cases?
Even if it is common, are you willing to accept it? Even if it is common, are you willing to accept it? Unless you start the practice, nothing gonna change for you. So ask this question, if it is common or uncommon doesn't make a difference for you. So point is, if you have understood there is scientific evidence provided, now are you willing to take to the procedure to see the soul? That should be the question. Next.
Why does not Abrahamic religions believe in reincarnation?
Ask them. Anything else?
Yes, last question. Can we consider here the law of energy constant in same as soul?
What is that?
I'm reading verbatim. Can we consider here the law of energy constant in same as soul?
I don't know what is law of energy constant. Law of energy is never constant. Law of energy is conserved. It transforms from one form to another. So I'm not so scientifically uneducated for that. Yes. And we have a question up in the front. We'll conclude with that.
Continuing to her question, the journey of 84 lakhs yoni and all. So you said it is up to you to decide when to end the journey, right?
Oh yes.
So end of journey means what happens? That soul goes away?
Goes back to Godhead, her original home.
So count of one soul gets decreased?
Yeah, that's a way of reducing population. We are helping reduce population. And you have to help us to reduce population.
No, one more thing. I mean, we as a soul, we do not know whatever we went through till now. Whatever.
Which is the grace of the Lord that you don't remember.
Right. So why should we care? Are we going in that loop of 84 lakhs yoni, or we need to go to God?
Yes.
Why should we care about that?
It's up to you. Don't care. I am not telling care or not care. I am telling you who you are. And if you are intelligent enough, you will understand. If I don't pay attention to it, I continue to struggle.
That's what I'm saying. How do we know that we struggle or we are struggling? I mean, we don't know. I mean, I don't know what happened in my previous body or whatever my soul experienced.
See, you don't know anything actually. None of us know anything. We only claim to know something. We are starting with the very fundamentals of life. Bhagavad Gita does not teach us the conclusion. Bhagavad Gita teaches you fundamentals of life. Beyond fundamentals, the mature education is given in Srimad Bhagavatam. The most fundamental knowledge of life, you are not the body but spirit soul. Now when you focus on that, have you got scientific evidences the reincarnation exists? Yes or no?
Yes, through the videos.
You got it?
Yeah.
Have you got Vedic evidences? Scripture says, yes or no? You got a logical, conclusive evidences?
Yes.
What else do you need? What else you say, how do I know what? Now we know. How does you perform anything? It all begins with faith. So today a faith has been instilled on the subject matter, you're not the body but spirit soul. Now how do I understand I am not the body but spirit soul? Should be the question. Therefore I said, there is a theory, there is an experiment. Experiment is chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Unless you do an experiment, how would you understand? Right? So don't get caught up too much on mental level. Take to the process, because this process takes you beyond your mind. Mantra. With that delivers you from your mind. So please don't get stuck on mind level. That's the point here. Fine. We conclude here. We'll ask in person. It's getting too late.
Population related question is there.
I am not here for population control. Pass the mic here. I got nothing to do with population explosion or control. Yeah. You have a question? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Bolo.
Prabhuji, my question is that just now we discussed that plants are comes under living things.
Correct.
So it means that whatever we eat,
Correct.
whatever we eat,
Jivo
all these are
jivasya jivanam. Don't overthink. There are certain laws. Have you made the traffic laws?
Yeah.
Have you made it? You never made it.
No.
Now when you jump it, you get fine. If the cow and the dog goes, he doesn't get a fine. Now you begin thinking, why did I got a fine? He's also animal, I'm also animal. So don't overthink. This is called paralysis. Analysis to paralysis. Your question is very valid. But Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. So the principle in this world is every living entity is dependent on other living entity. You cannot change that law. Now you cannot say, oh, how can I eat a plant? Life, I will fast. Fast. Nothing changes in the world. Only thing is you get another body. So this is the law of the nature. Now what am I supposed to eat? Are we expecting to eat matter? No. So the law of nature have given a particular food for this body. Cow has been given grass. Lion has been given mass. A man has been given not both. Prasadam. You offer vegetarian diet to the Lord and accept it. Just like in Yajna we offer and then we accept it as prasadam. Life of a human being is meant to perform sacrifice, yajna. That's the difference between cow and a man. If you say man is also supposed to eat grass, then you are a cow only, na? No, the man is supposed to eat the food which is offered in sacrifice, which becomes prasad. That's what we eat.
I think so. In that PPT, right? Whatever 6 steps for the living and for non-living, right? So I think so. According to me, okay, can we add that living things can be move it himself or itself, right? But non-living things cannot having the movement by itself.
Where was it given? It is called living when there is a movement. What are the symptoms of living? Birth, growth, maintenance, byproducts, old age, and death. There is no discussion on movement. This is the problem with the engineering mind. Has to create some ungli dalni hai. I mean, we don't create things. Things are like this. Newton did not invent law of gravity. He discovered. Law of gravity was existing. So laws are existing. We have to understand the laws and live our life. You cannot change the life. The problem with the atheistic population today, they want to change. Therefore, there is so much crisis. China has so much drought. At one season ago, they had so much floods. Another season later, they had so much drought. Now they're trying to produce artificial rains. Thank God that's a big country. I'm least worried now. If it was a small country like Nepal, all that chemical pollution would have entered India. They have gone crazy. This is what happened with the atheistic people. They're just they're spoiling everything. Now imagine all of us today onward decide, I am going to decide the traffic laws. The only traffic laws is traffic chaos. Have you seen when the traffic signal stops working? What happens? Chaos. If each one of us start making our own law, there is chaos. The laws of the universe are set. Our responsibility to understand that and live life according to that. There are so many things that we don't understand. It doesn't mean we cannot understand. But to think that I can understand everything at one go, that is a sign of less intelligence. So many things that you study in your life, even up to today, who can explain me what is imaginary number? All a maths graduate? It is called imaginary because it is not meant to be understood. That's the reason it is called imaginary. All right.
Thank you,
okay.
Prabhuji.
The question and conclude.
Prabhuji, you gave an example of James, the child who remembers his past life. So my question is, why does some people remember their past life so clearly, and why does someone not?
They are cursed. Therefore, they remember their past life. It is their sinful karma because of which they remember their past life. Imagine you are in a male body. Now you remember in your past life you were a woman. How many of you think it will be a completely crisis? Total crisis. Long ago, I started this whole Hinjewadi gathering at Hotel Tamanna. At one of the Thursday evening, I used to have programs many years ago. So there I was having a program. One girl used to work in Infosys. At the end of this particular session, she came to me and she said, Prabhuji, I remember everything of my past life. I remember everything of my past life. I said, oh really? She said, yes. I immediately asked, how do you feel about it? She said, Prabhuji, when I was a young child, 5 year onwards, I began to have the dreams of my past life. I was taken to psychologists and everything. We are Hindus, so we knew this is a case of incarnation. And my parents verified it and it was proven. In my previous life, I was a boy. And now I'm a girl. So up to 10 years, it was okay. But when I began to grow up, my mother told me, Beta, if you want to live and enjoy this life, you have to forget your past. If you keep latching on to your old memories as a boy, in this life you cannot be a woman or a boy. It will be a terrible experience. Now, even if you think about this life, generally we don't remember the good moments. What we remember the most are the bad moments. How many of you agree? In previous life you had a birth, you had a death. So what you would remember largely are only the tortuous moments. Therefore I said, those who remember is cursed. This is good we don't remember. If we would have remembered, we would not have been lived our life. Now you may say, oh Prabhuji, how can I believe? I give you scientific evidences. So be grateful to the Lord that He made you forget about it. But now you don't forget Him.
Also, Prabhuji, you mentioned that this body is nothing but a piece of cloth that we change every
It's an
time.
analogy.
Yeah, it's
to
an
help
analogy.
you understand that. We are
Yes.
not the body.
So, should we take care of it?
Oh yes.
Should we go
Definitely.
to gym, exercise and all?
See, very good question. Bhagavad Gita says, Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshta karmasu yukta swapnova bodhasya yoga bhavati sadukha. You want to get over your dukha? What you have to do? You have to live a regulated life. Ahar should be regulated. Vihar, recreation should be regulated. Cheshta karmashu, your endeavors should be regulated. Swapna, abodhasya, your waking up should be regulated. Once you live a regulated life is said to be a yogi. Yoga bhavati sadhuka. And like that you can conquer overall dukkha. Now what is regulation? What is regulated diet? Again, that's a subject matter to discuss. As I said, this is just very preliminary sessions. You're just getting latched onto it. So before we come to the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, which could take an year to come, year or maybe years to come to it, the conclusion of all that is Manmana Bhavavat Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskar. Remember me. Chant my glories. So don't wait for Bhagavad Gita to complete for you to start the process. And what is that process? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Start with it. Take to this practice. I'm going to speak in one of the forums, upcoming forums dedicated on this topic, because the next month of October is the most special month called as Kartik. And the glory of this Kartik month, most of you might be aware of it, the glory of this Kartik month, whatever spiritual practice you do, is considered thousands of times. So it is the right time, the best time to start with the chanting. Don't wait for the time until I finish the whole Bhagavad Gita. मैं खाली बैठने वाला हूँ. बैठे रहो. Guaranteed ही तुम्हारी खत्म होने वाली है. कब टिकट कटेगा किसका क्या पता है? So we already discussed, this is the conclusion. So start with it. And what can be the better time than Kartik? Therefore we plan in such a way that we complete our discussion just 2 days before Kartik. So before Kartik comes, I can give you some glimpse of Bhagavad Gita, some important subject matter. You've got to a certain level of faith. Now you begin the spiritual process. Don't live a religious life. Live a spiritual life. And the whole idea is to give you that spiritual practice. Okay? We will speak about it in future, but from today onwards, please take to the process of chanting. Right now, take out 15 minutes of your day, preferably in the morning hours. Get up, wake up, and start chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Put a counter for 15 minutes. Put your phone in the airplane mode so no call disturbs you. This is your time for yourself. Otherwise, we are always doing something for all others. Your office for your manager, your home for your family, but you never get time for yourself. This is your time. 24 घंटे में 15 मिनट नहीं निकाल सकते. So 15 minutes, nothing doing, no disturbance, I'm going to do it. Please do this. You will experience. And once you get an experience, then you see your life would be entirely changed. If you just live on the mental platform, question, answer, and don't do what I'm asking you to do, then there would be any experience. Okay? So with that, we conclude here for today. Thank you all very much. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All of you made a world record for IT engineers, Guinness Book of World Record, to sit on the ground in Padmasana for 2.5 hours. It's a record in itself. But thank you for your austerities. I mean, what to do? I have to sit on the chair, because if I sit on the ground, then you can't see me. And we can't have enough chairs here for everyone. If you have enough chairs, then only few will get to sit. So we have to have an arrangement like that. So, yeah, please go ahead. With that, we can conclude online thing. So thank you for all those online devotees who